Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hello. My name is Kimolisa Mings. I'm a reader, reader. I love to read and I love to write. Now, as a self-published author, I have to ask myself, how are readers going to find my books? And so I got to thinking about the books that are in my library. And this is how books from my library came to be. Now, this week we're going to be looking at 3 books, starting off with Tallulah Land by Lynn Messina. Now, I came across this book when I was still living in New York, and I had just graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology with a degree in fashion design, and I would normally get my books from the Barnes & Nobles on 14th Street. Now, when I came across this book, I think I was drawn to it because it had a cat, and I, at the time, was a cat person, as well as that there was a dark-skinned person at a design desk. And one of the things is that when I was studying in the dorms, I had one of those adjustable desks, so I would be illustrating on them with while listening to the jazz radio station. So I kind of was drawn to this book, and then I read the blurb and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go with this. Now, this is one of the few books, well, that I can say I remember scenes from, but then the other side is that I'm not really drawn to reading the book again, and yet I don't want to give it away. So the only way the library's gonna get this is when I pass. So here's book 1, Tallulah Land. Next we have William Gibson's Virtual Light. Now, I came across this book in a write-up in a magazine, and I thought, that's an interesting story. And then I came across the book and I snatched it up, and this was the first book that got me into William Gibson's cyberpunk world. And since then I've read a few of his books. Now, unlike the other cover, I would not normally have been drawn to it, but then growing up, my brother is and was into computers, and so I always had technology around me and futurism around me. So it was in that I was drawn to this book. But then his last book, the last book I read, I just didn't get into it. So it's a situation where I got into a book, I got into an author, I was reading all his books, but then I came across one and I was just like, okay, it may not be for me anymore. But then through this project though, it starts out, let me explain. So I have to read the blurb first. So, Chevette never stole things, or anyway not from other people, and definitely not when she was working. So how's she going to explain the sunglasses? And not just any sunglasses, but this one very special, very expensive pair, loaded with the data that threatens to utterly transform her city of San Francisco, state of Northern California, in the year 2005. Yeah, that was 17 years ago, right? And it's 2022 right now. And this book was written in 1993. So with that in mind, I'm now curious as to what he will be predicting in the future. So I had seen a few, I think maybe a couple of years ago, that he came out with a book. So I think I will be on the lookout for his books, and I will also be on the lookout for his books at the library. And so, William Gibson, Virtual Light. Now, what I will be doing is I will be doing 2 fiction and 1 nonfiction. And the nonfiction for this week is God is a Brown Girl Too. And this is by Cecilia B. Loving. Now, at the time, my family was going through this dynamic time in our lives, and what I found since then, let's say it started in 2017, 2018 actually. And during that time, I realized a friend that I had for years had gone through something similar, and her mother was like on a similar journey as I was, and she recommended this book, and she actually sent me this book, and I found this book quite useful, and this is one of the few books that I actually have bookmarks in them. And I've read it more than once, and it would be a situation where I had read the book once, and I had made bookmarks. I had made, bookmark sections, and then I would go back into the sections that either resonated with me, or they had something like a journal prompt, and I would just be like writing out the thing. And what also, another thing is that it's small chapters. So what I used to do was I would read it during my morning routine. So that is God is a Brown Girl Too. Now, from this exercise, I recognize that, for one, it can either be a cover that either pulls me in, and it helps that there might be a character that kind of looks like me. It could be that I came across some form of media, be it a magazine or even social media. Like my last acquisition, it was because I saw in a Facebook group that I started following a beautiful illustration based on a book. Now let me get this straight. The author did not, or her publishing house did not make this illustration. A reader was so moved to create the artwork, and it was beautiful, that she liked the book so much that she made this artwork. And I just went down that rabbit hole, and I discovered the book at a great price. So it was like in my cart, right? And it just came in. So it could be some kind of media, be it social media or the classical media of magazines or on TV. And then the last one was by word of mouth, by recommendation. And the funny thing is, my friend, whose mother had sent me this book, she recommended books for me too, as well. So through her, I came across Hunger Games, and I think there was a few other books that she recommended, and I've read. So there's no one way for your book to be discovered by a reader. And what I'm sensing is that it's more a reflection of the reader, because they either relate to the person on the cover, or it's something that's in their life. Like with Williams Gibson, it was technology was in my life, is in my life. Or it might be something I'm going through and somebody else is going through it, and they told me about it, and it sounded interesting enough, and it felt like it came at the right time, and so I got into it. And here you have it. Books from my library. Now, you're gonna see me in this shirt in the next week, because it looks good on me, and I'm going to try and batch this. Yeah, I'm sharing too much, but I'd like to thank you for watching this far, and I'm going to try and be consistent, and you're going to see that I have an eclectic taste in books. I read almost everything, or I try to, and I feel like this is going to be an interesting learning experience. Not in some terms, I will be learning about myself, and I will be learning about my choices, but then from that I can see how others do the same, and how I can get my books out to others. So once again, thank you for making it to this far, and I hope to see you next week.